Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randirhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinker podcast.
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
And I was really tired, so I got into bed, and all of a sudden, John Conyers walked into my bedroom. Another time, I was instructed to drive him to the airport, and he was driving erratically. He was a terrible driver. Erratically. Thank God he was erratic, okay? Because his hand was feeling me all over my, what do you call it, my abdomen.
In a third incident in 1999, Maher says that Conyers put his hand up her dress during a town hall meeting in his home district and then whispered to her that, quote, she had great-looking legs. Maher is the fourth woman to come forward with sexual misconduct claims against Conyers. He's denied any wrongdoing, although he admits he settled one case in 2015.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Oh, for the love of Jesus. So John Conyers today announced on a radio show that he is retiring, that he will he's out. He's out as of today. As of today, he's done. He's out. And apparently his son or a nephew, I don't know, it depends on who's doing the talking, will run for his seat. And so now there'll be a special election in Ricky Snyder's Michigan. Yeah, I feel so good about that. And we don't know if he'll run it in tandem with the 2018, which would be, you know, kind of normal, or if he'll do it before. But there has to be a primary. So now we're looking at a primary date. We don't know, what will happen, because the primary will be a Democratic primary, a Republican primary, and a Libertarian primary in John Conyers' district, where John Conyers has held that seat since 1965. And he's out today. He says he's tired. He says he can't continue. He basically denied some of these allegations, although there has been a secret settlement. You know how the conversation was that there were congressmen who had settled with our taxpayer dollars these sexual harassment lawsuits. One of them was John Conyers. Another of them was the Republican Blake Farenthold. He settled a sexual harassment abuse case for $84,000 with taxpayer money. Not only do I want my $84,000 back, but this had to do with naked pictures of Blake Farenthold. I want $84,000 to be paid to each and every American who had to envision Blake Farenthold having sex. At least John Conyers was a fit 88-year-old. I'll just say that. He wasn't hard on the eyes. He wasn't bad to look at. Blake Farenthold, does everybody understand what Blake... I mean, if they charged by the pound, it would have been a lot more. So, I mean, this is crazy. And there is a running list of, that Vice News puts up. And some days they have to update the list 2, 3, 4 times a day of men in Congress who have been accused of, let's say, everything from sexual advances unwanted all the way to sexual assault. And for some strange reason, Alabama is about to elect a pedophile. We're trying to remove sexual predators from Congress. John Conyers said to the radio show, effective immediately, he will resign. He will not be representing his district after... how many years? 65, 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2000, 50 some odd years. He's done, right? He's going to call it a day. Blake Farenthold is still serving, and he's settled. And Roy Moore has had people come forward and say things like...
For those who aren't familiar, can you tell us your interactions with Roy Moore? You said you were 14 years old, sitting in the courthouse with your mom. He walked up, introduced himself. Right. And then ultimately called you and asked you out for a date?
Well, I wouldn't exactly call it a date. I'd say it was a meet. At 14, I was not dating. At 14, I was not able to make those kind of choices. I met him around the corner from my house. My mother did not know. And he took me to his home. After arriving at his home, on the second occasion that I went with him, he basically laid out some blankets on the floor of his living room.
Ew.
And proceeded to seduce me, I guess you would say. And during the course of that, he removed my clothing. He left the room and came back in wearing his white underwear.
Ew.
And he touched me over my clothing, what was left of it. And he tried to get me to touch him as well.
Yuck.
And at that point, I pulled back and said that I was not comfortable, and I got dressed, and he took me home. But I was a 14-year-old child trying to play in an adult's world, and he was 32 years old.
Oh, that is so gag-worthy, I can't even tell you. So, as Conyers is resigning over sexual misconduct charges, Roy Moore is picking up a presidential endorsement and renewed support from the Republican National Committee. They have entered into a joint fundraising agreement for the last week of this, let's elect a pedophile, we're Alabama campaign. This is a man who was banned from shopping malls in Alabama. Welcome to the U.S. Senate. Welcome. Now, this is the crazy part. Ivanka Trump has, texted that there is no place in this world. There's only a place in hell for pedophiles. And apparently she was incorrect, as the Trumps are in so many of their tweets. There is a place. It's called the U.S. Senate. I mean, this is just disgusting. This is gag-worthy. This is sickening. And, of course, the Roy Moore sycophants and the Roy Moore defenders and the Roy Moore campaign, they're all over the TV because another woman has come forward with proof that Roy Moore is lying when he says that he didn't date teenage girls in his 30s. She is the very definition of bravery. Do you know how, humiliating it has to be to say that you dated Roy Moore? She's not alleging sexual misconduct. As a matter of fact, she's saying that she dated Roy Moore as a badge of honor. She was so proud that she had dated this Alabama Republican. She was so proud that he had gone on to the Alabama Supreme Court and that she knew him and campaigned for him when he was running for various offices, in Alabama. And she's really proud. And now he's tainted the memory. Tainted it. I mean, this is just unbelievable. So, this is what Roy Moore's campaign put on the TV last night to talk to CNN. Okay, this is just unfreaking believable.
First, Lee Korfman, whom we have heard from in her own words, saying at 14 years old she was a victim of child molestation by Roy Moore. Here she is in her words.
He basically laid out some blankets on the floor of his living room and proceeded to seduce me, I guess you would say. And during the course of that, he removed my clothing. He left the room and came back in wearing his white underwear.
Yuck.
And he touched me over my clothing, what was left of it. And he tried to get me to touch him as well.
Oh. Do you believe her?
I don't believe her at all, and I'll tell you why. Not only was she sought after by the Washington Post, her own mother doesn't believe elements of her story. The element of the phone call that took place in the bedroom, mother says there was no phone in her bedroom. The element that she told the Washington Post that her life spiraled out of control after this alleged incident, well, that's not what her mother said. That's not what the court record said.
So her mother said that Janet, that there was no phone in the bedroom, which is not the crux of the story.
And she also said...
And the Washington Post journalists, the job of journalists is to go ask questions and to follow leads.
They have an agenda.
And it might be questionable.
One of the drug dealing accusers...
Hold on 1 second. Let me just... Okay. The job of reporters, because I am one, is to follow leads and ask questions. And that is what the Washington Post did. Lee Korfman did not seek out the Washington Post. She was so hesitant to tell her story, she said that she would not tell it until other women were willing to go on the record. And she said to Savannah Guthrie on NBC, "This has made my life more difficult. I haven't been able to work because of it."
One of the jobs of journalists is to not just take an Academy Award performance at face value.
Whoa.
You need to dig into the facts.
30
and
people
one of the facts in the
corroborated her
case,
story who knew Roy Moore between 1977
actually, they did
and
not.
1982.
The
they did,
collaboration,
according
we
to the
need to make it
reporting
clear.
from the Post.
Poppy, we need to make it clear that there's a group of non-accusers that have not accused the judge of any sexual misconduct or anything illegal.
What? Did you hear that? There are a group of non-accusers who are not accusing Roy Moore of anything illegal. A group of not... It sounds like she's describing unicorns. There are a group of, non-visible animals in the world. There are animals you can't see. What is she... I bet you these non-accuser women are climate scientists or something, you know? What is that? Climate scientists who don't believe climate change is real, like the unicorn, like the chupacabra, you know, like Bigfoot. There are a bunch of, non-accusers out there. This is the excuse that they... Oh, and by the way, this girl, her name is Jane Porter. She is disgusting. Poppy Harlow, I should tell you, is 8 months pregnant with a son, and she's about to give birth. And, she's obviously very pregnant on CNN right now. And this is how Roy Moore's spokesperson, Jane Porter, opened the interview with the very pregnant Poppy Harlow.
Joining me now is Moore's campaign spokeswoman, Janet Porter. Janet, it is nice to have you on. Thank you for joining us. And let me get right to it.
So Thank you. It's great to be with you. And by the way, congratulations on your unborn child. That's the reason why I came down as a volunteer to speak for Judge Roy Moore, because he'll stand for the rights of babies like yours in the womb, where his opponent will support killing them up until the moment of birth.
Whoa! Whoa! So... love the fetus, hate the 14-year-old child that he molests. Oh, wow. Wow. And Poppy Harlow, she repeats this in the interview. She repeated it again, and Poppy Harlow finally had to dig her heels in and say, could we please leave my unborn son out of this? Please leave my son out of this. Because this woman kept returning to this theme. We love the fetus, hate the 14-year-old child who accuses Roy Moore of being a pedophile. No, I don't believe the child. Now, I will say, Lee Korfman, she has an excuse. Like I said, it's got to be so humiliating to admit that you were molested, A, as a 14-year-old girl, and B, by Roy Moore. But at least she has the excuse she was a child, which all children do. So this is just vile. This is disgusting. I can't even believe it. And then last night, after the woman, Debbie Gibson, came forward, let me show you what Debbie Gibson proved with her. She was up in the attic, and she was getting her Christmas decorations down. Apparently, she missed this shirt because I found it and I'm wearing it. It's my Christmas shirt. But so apparently she found a bin. You know how we all have the bins? Some have them from the Container Store, which are the fancy bins, and others of us use laundry baskets and get mocked. But okay, so she found a bin, and in the bin, next to the Christmas decorations, she saw this a memory bin, you know, where she had her senior yearbook, and she had a memories book, and she had, you know, people who had written her graduation notes, and whether or not she had written them a thank you note checked off on lists because she's Southern. And here's what she said and what she produced to the media.
And I opened it up to the first page, and it says I was 17 years old. So I realized, well, this is my high school senior year memory book. And as I turned the pages, I came across a card, and it was a high school graduation greeting card from Roy Moore. Happy graduation, Debbie. I wanted to give you this card myself. I know that you'll be a success in anything you do, Roy. I've known Roy Moore for many years, and I met him in 1981, and we dated for a brief time, and we kissed with my consent, and I'm very sad that he's decided to say he doesn't know me.
Let me start state once again, I do not know any of these women, did not date any of these women, have not engaged in any sexual misconduct with anyone.
I felt like this was the first thing that I've seen that I know personally for a fact to be a lie from his mouth. And he's spewing the lie from the pulpit of a church.
It's simply dirty politics.
The pulpit of a church.
He did not perpetrate sexual misconduct toward me, nor have I ever claimed that. But I now know for sure that he is a liar.
Swell. So as we attempt to clean up the one place where it seems like a sexual predator was able to roam freely as a unicorn and, Miss, what's her name? Janet Porter in her head. Oh, my God. There are billions who have never been in the same time zone as Roy Moore. So how could these girls, this is a sick argument. And he will not kill your unborn baby, and Doug Jones will. This is the best they got. And so we're trying to clean up Congress. We're trying to clean up the Senate. We're trying to clean up from the Blake Farentholds and the John Conyers. And, and as we're doing that, Alabama's going to send us a pedophile to replace. And Donald Trump endorses him, with 16 women accusing Donald Trump at the same time. Wow.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Hi, this is Scotty, Randy's producer, here to remind you it's December, a month that's known for its holidays. You got your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, your Boxing Day, Festivus. No matter what holiday you celebrate, it's a time we all come together with our families and friends. And since you're all my family and friends, I like to wish each and every one of you a happy/merry holidays of your choice. Now, if you're still looking for the perfect gift, I, Scotty, got you covered. Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy your friends or family a stinking podcast. Think about it. What better way to show your loved ones that you really care than sharing with them the knowledge of truth and facts? And if you can't stand the people in your life, but you still want to do something great for the holidays, here's an idea for you. Support the show. By supporting the Randi Rhodes Show, you help keep us going into the new year. And if 2017 was a sign of things to come, we'll need Randy more than ever. Go to RandiRhodes.com to buy a stinking podcast and or support the show.
Happy holidays, jerky fans. Herky Jerky knows it's the season to enjoy the world's best jerky and meat sticks, and they want you to save a bundle while doing it. Herky Jerky, first of all, would like to thank you all you fiercely loyal customers, because they had their most successful year thanks to you despite Mother Nature doing its worst. Jason at Herky Jerky is so grateful that you enjoy his products, and everyone at Herky Jerky is so glad to provide them. So, as a special thank you, Herky Jerky is serving up their best offer of the year for Christmas giving. $10 off any order of $60 or more, or $15 off any order $100 or more without a promo code. Just visit herkyjerky.com. And the now famous bacon jerky, new fat-free and delicious turkey jerky, and all four the new nitrite and preservative-free flavors, plus good old beef jerky, and all the exotic game jerkies make perfect holiday gifts. Buffalo, elk, venison sticks, 3 different varieties of beef smokies, all make great stocking stuffers. So choose your favorites now. Take advantage of the savings, which also includes free shipping on any 2 packs or more. Everyone at Herky Jerky would like to wish a safe and happy holiday season to all of you, and thank you once again for your loyalty. This offer starts today and it goes through all of December. Happy holidays from herkyjerky.com.
Whether you're listening to me, Mark Levine, each Monday and Wednesday,
or me, Leslie Marshall, each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday,
you can hear us 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
Here's a sample of what you'll hear. Van Jones, he's a correspondent for CNN and a regular guest on political talk shows. Let's talk about your book, Beyond the Messy Truth, how we came apart, how we come together. First of all, how did we come apart?
Well, I think that one thing that's important to remember is that the rebellion in the country that we, saw, whether it's Bernie Sanders, Black Lives Matter, even some of the energy that wound up getting sucked into the Trump campaign, is kind of justified because both political parties for a very long time were, doing dumb stuff.
Again, that's Mark Levine every Monday and Wednesday.
And Leslie Marshall each Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday.
3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Progressive Voices Network.
All things Randy at randyrhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, 426, Pete in Los Angeles. Oh, that's my fault. Sorry, Pete in Los Angeles.
Yes, hi, Randy.
Hi.
I have to admit it. I, too, like that group of women who have not been assaulted by Roy Moore. I, too, although I'm not a woman, but I, too, have not been assaulted by Roy Moore.
Oh, it's a small world. I also have not been assaulted by Roy Moore.
You're kidding.
No, crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. How much more evidence do these freaks in Alabama need in order to not send us a pedophile in the U.S. Senate?
They don't care about right or wrong. They care about self-interest and power and money and...
Oh, no. The people in Alabama do not care about power and money. The people in Alabama, they care about tribes. They care about being, Republican before they care about children. This is why I never want to hear from anybody in the South's mouth ever, ever again that they love the fetus because they hate the child. I also never want to hear America first because they are sacrificing at the altar of tribalism their integrity, their care for children, their concern for family values. This man is making these denials. He's lying at the pulpit of a church. This man is vile. This man is grotesque. This man is a slime bag. He is the sleaziest of the sleazy, cloaking himself in Jesus Christ's own shroud of Turin. I am so sick of these religious zealots telling me that they have more morals than I do. I never want to hear it again. Never. The President of the United States can claim no moral high ground. He can claim no integrity, no dignity, nothing. I never want to hear it again. They have endorsed, the party has endorsed, the Republicans have endorsed a pedophile, a freaking pedophile for the U.S. Senate. And there is no doubt.
How much more evidence do you need?
Because
First of
there's
all,
no evidence,
Roy Moore is a liar.
Evidence.
He's a liar. He lied about taking money. He lied about taking. Let's go over this.
Yeah.
Let's look at Roy Moore. He lied about taking over $1 million from a foundation that he claimed that he didn't take any money from. That was supposed to be a small salary. It was over $1 million. He lied about that. He lied about not knowing any of these accusers whatsoever. Yet 2 of them have handwritten notes from him.
Seriously.
One in a yearbook and one in a scrapbook, which came out today in the Washington Post. And the woman that came out and showed her scrapbook that had contemporaneous written in notes about him being at her high school graduation and sending her a card. She said that she initially was uncomfortable with what the other women were saying. She couldn't believe that he would do that until she saw that he lied about not knowing her because he dated her in public. She was 17, he was 34. He also called a high school girl in her trigonometry class.
Remember?
He's claiming he doesn't know all these girls, and you have over 30 to 40 contemporaneous witnesses that also corroborated these
30 to 40 witnesses.
So what more do you need at this point?
Let me just read this. This is the last line.
Hold on.
I'm going to let you respond, Ed. I am. I just want to, as Tara was saying, this is the last paragraph in the Washington Post. She said, and she talks about the tape where he was speaking and
at a rally.
At a rally. This is the last line.
At the church.
It says at 34 minutes and 56 seconds into the video, he says unequivocally, "I did not know any of them," Gibson said. "In that moment, it changed my perspective. I knew he was a liar." She initially supported him. That's her thoughts.
Yeah, look, Don, look, what I'm saying to Tara, and she can go on a rant and she can list all these things, and the Washington Post is...
It's not a rant.
Why is it when you list facts that are overwhelmingly prosecutorial, that are overwhelmingly admitted, that are overwhelmingly accepted facts, you're on a rant? Is it a female thing, or is it just because Tara Setmeyer used to be the spokesperson for one Dana Rohrabacher, Republican of California, Russia-phile. Okay, he loves Russia. I mean, Rohrabacher would hump Putin if he was given the chance. That's how much he loves him. But anyway, she was his spokesperson. This is no Democrat Tara Satmeyer is a Republican and has been her entire life. And she's arguing with Ed Martin, who's going to rot in hell for his support of a pedophile, on national television night after night after night after night after night. These people, I mean, you talk about how in Christianity they say the lukewarm go to hell. Oh, these people are not lukewarm. These people are boiling in pedophilia and the cover-up of it. They are definitely going to hell. These are Satan's friends. These are, you know what it reminds me of? You remember that, you know I love movies, right? Okay, so remember The Devil's Advocate? Al Pacino, and then that overacting, Keanu Reeves, who's just, he's overactor. He's an overactor. But, the movie was watchable despite him. He portrays, at the very beginning, a lawyer in Florida who is defending a pedophile by putting a young girl who looks to be about 13, 14 in the movie on the stand to question her credibility because her teacher has sexually molested her. He convinces the jury that this little girl is either confused or lying about this pedophile and gets him off. And I don't mean in a good way. And the pedophile is set free. This is how the movie begins. Come to find out that he is he's the grandson of Satan, the devil's advocate. And his father, played by Al Pacino, is one of the biggest lawyers in all of New York City. And at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, when they asked him why the law, he goes, the law's into everything. Law takes over. Law gets into everything. You can change everything with the law. Which brings up, this whole thing about he used to fight religious liberty cases and all this stuff with voodoo guys who were sacrificing, like babies and goats. And it was violative of New York laws that you couldn't sacrifice animals in your apartment. Right? And he takes it to court and he wins based on religious liberty for a Satanist voodoo guy. Okay. And that's what's going on at Supreme Court right now. They're hearing oral arguments about bakeries that want to put a sign in their window refusing to bake cakes for gay couples, even though the law in the United States says that if you are a business open to the public, you cannot discriminate based on sexual orientation. You ever go, Scotty and I were talking about this. He wasn't clear on how this argument might sound or go. And he said to me, so if I go to a restaurant, sometimes I'll ask, like they have a grilled fish. And I'll be in the mood for a pan-seared. Yeah, this is Scotty. I raised him, so, he knows good cooking. So he says, and I'll say to the waiter, I see you got a grilled fish, but I really want a pan-seared. I want a crusty. I'm in the mood for a crusty. I don't want grill marks. Can you do that for me? And they say no. And he says, why not? Because it's not on the menu. If a cake baker is putting out a menu of cakes that they regularly bake for ordinary people who are getting married, and you choose from that menu a cake, they cannot refuse to bake you that cake because your sexual orientation somehow offends them. But pedophilia doesn't. Isn't that something, everybody? Welcome to Sharia law. I'm so serious. Here's how Roy Moore's campaign, they're sending people out. I mean, this is why it became I was so nauseous last night. I swear to you, I needed to take something to calm my belly. I almost projectile vomited after this guy. This guy was on Erin Burnett's show last night. He is a Roy Moore defender named Dean Young. I think he might even be the campaign manager. And what really struck me, I used to live in this town. You'll see on the screen, he's broadcasting from Fairhope, Alabama. I actually lived in Fairhope, Alabama. Oh, yeah. That's another chapter in the book. That's a brutal chapter. That's a real, wow. Alabama, woo. But, yeah, here. Oh, this is just gross. Here's Dean Young defending Roy Moore.
Sean Hannity asked Moore whether he had dated teenagers when he was a man in his 30s, and here is how he responded.
Do you remember dating girls that young at that time?
Not generally, no. If I did,
I'm not going to dispute anything, but I don't remember anything like that. I don't remember ever dating any girl without the permission of her mother.
Oh, gag.
So, Dean, are you okay with, if he did this, that it was okay for a man in his 30s to be dating teenagers?
Well, when you put it like that.
What I'm okay with is Judge Moore made it perfectly clear. If he did date a teenager, he didn't know about it. So I can't tell you how many times I've been on a date and didn't ask a girl how old she was, especially after I asked their mama if I could date them.
Well, he's not saying he didn't. He's saying I don't remember dating any girl without the permission of her mother. That's not saying he didn't know their age.
Okay. Okay. Well, then, I mean, here's the situation, Aaron. In Alabama, we believe
teenagers.
that Judge Moore is a godly man of integrity that doesn't do all the things that the fake media is trying to say that he does. And he doesn't. So all this is out of character, and all this, again, is just this, all of a sudden, 1 month before he's becoming the next senator, and he will be the next senator from Alabama, that's when all this stuff just explodes out in the open. So
yes, and I understand that, and that's a fair question, and perhaps that's because they feel like this person is now going to be in one of the highest offices in the land, and they feel like it's finally time to speak out.
Right.
I don't know, but I do know I spoke to one of Moore's accusers, Dean, Tina Johnson, and she says that Moore groped her in his office in 1991, and I asked her what she would say if Moore's campaign, if someone like you came out and called her a liar, and here's what she said.
The Lord that I serve is not the one Roy Moore serves, because my Lord knows that he did it. He knows it, and I know it. He can say whatever he wants to say. The truth will stand when the world won't, and that's the truth.
Is there a part of you in your heart, Dean, that wonders if maybe you're wrong and all these women are right?
No, there's not a part in my heart that wonders that.
Oh, jeez. Jazel Pete. Oh, Christopher Columbus, Mary and Joseph and heavens to Murgatroyd. These people are unbelievably blind, willfully blind. I mean, I think that's why Amazing Grace starts with the blind, and now I see. I mean, this guy's going to have to repent, and repent again, because they love the fetus in Poppy Harlow's belly, but they hate Lee Korfman as a 14-year-old girl. And they hate these women who came forward and these women who said, oh, and by the way, I must tell you, Debbie Gibson said he did not ask her mother. And Lee Korfman also said she didn't tell her mother. What is this thing with mama handed me over? What is that about? Well, their mama said that I could, molest them. I mean, I could really get graphic, so it becomes real for you if it's not. But this is just vile. This is unbelievable. These explanations, these willing it all away, this tribalism that anything that a person with an R after their name does is just fine, like Blake Farenthold did. I mean, naked pictures of him viral on the internet. $84,000 in settlement money paid from my tax dollars, your tax dollars, to his accuser because he did it, and he's still serving there. Meanwhile, John Conyers has to leave. They want Al Franken out of there. And Al Franken is a full frontal kisser, I told you. And if you are offended by the wet sloppiness of his lips that greet you when you first meet him, then yeah, he needs to go. That's just a fact. I myself have been greeted by Al Franken in this manner, and I found nothing aggressive, sexual, or malicious about that greeting. It was odd, I will say. I was, taken aback, but was I offended? No. Did I feel violated? No, I know what violation feels like, and that was not it. That was not it. Showing up in your underwears, laying a blanket out on the floor for a 14-year-old girl, taking her clothes off, grabbing her crotch, reaching under some woman on an airplane's dress. That is aggressive sexual assault. And what Roy Moore did was pedophilia and vomit-inducing, because the age of consent in Alabama is 16. Therefore, he had free reign to sexually assault anybody because they weren't underage. Plus, could we please consider that Roy Moore does not follow the law? You know, the president is out there endorsing Roy Moore because he says he wants a law and order guy. He wants a guy who's going to uphold the law, who's not bad on law and order issues. This is a pedophile. What is the worst law you could violate in our code of laws? I would say pedophilia is the worst. Although our justice system does not recognize pedophilia as being the worst thing you can do. It is murder. It is. You are murdering someone's soul. You are leaving it to them to be Lazarus, to rise from the ashes, to regroup, to reinvent themselves as a functioning human being, because you've taken away their innocence and you've taken away their childhood. It's murder. It's murder of a child. Oh my God. I mean, honestly, everybody, I got to tell you, this to me is the most vile of all the things I've ever seen the Republicans do. And I've seen them declare war on unarmed nations. I've seen them lie about the need to declare war. I've seen them kill millions of people with their bombs for no just reason. But the murder of a child's soul, the murder of a child's life, leaving that child to be Lazarus, to be a phoenix and rise from the ashes again? Oh, God! How can you do it, Alabama? How could you do it? Don't ever tell me family values.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show, and all I want for Christmas is an impeachment. But the next best thing is working at the Randi Rhodes Show, and that can't happen without your support. Let's help Randi make this a hard truth holiday season, and she can't do that without your support. So please keep listening and buy a stinking podcast.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show. Watch every week on Free Speech TV, Link TV, YouTube, or if you're in New York, CUNY TV. Prefer to listen? Subscribe to the free podcast at lauraflanders.com. I end every week with a commentary. I call it the F word. Here's this week's. Holiday shopping on your mind? Gift subscriptions to newspapers and magazines were big last year. Subscriptions to the New York Times and the Washington Post spiked soon after the election as the penny seemed to drop that without an informed electorate, we have a pretty dodgy democracy. A year on, American democracy is in way more trouble than a few gift subs can fix. While the conventional wisdom has had it that the Trump White House has had a hard time getting much done, the Federal Communications Commission has been doing a lot, none of it good for public decision-making, as in democracy, you know, the system with the people, the demos, the debate. Historically, the mission of the FCC has been to regulate the public airwaves for the sake of our democracy by promoting localism, competition, and diversity. Trump's communications chair, Ajit Pai, is against all of that. Pai, a former staffer to Jeff Sessions, leads the commission's Republican majority in virtual lockstep. He's made it more than clear that he plans to reverse net neutrality rules. That would make it legal for big cable providers to privilege some content over others, their own, for example, over independents like us. Pai's comfortable with monopolies of opinion and ownership, too. If the FCC goes ahead and repeals the last limits on how many stations a single entity can own, that will do horrible things to your phone bill, but the impact on democracy will be even worse. Sinclair Broadcasting, for example. If that company gets to buy Tribune, they'll have stations that reach 3/4 of the U.S. population with one agenda, Trump's. Sinclair's hired former Trump advisors to record daily commentaries, which all the local stations are forced to air under a must-carry rule that is strictly enforced. Many stations, one voice. It's time we stopped fiddling with the FCC. What do I really want for Christmas? A few huge, sexy, monopoly-busting, local media funding antitrust lawsuits. Big Cable's not covering the FCC struggle much, but you can cast your vote by signing a petition or getting involved at one of many sites, for example, freepress.net. Thanks. Write to me, tell me what you think. That's Laura, L-A-U-R-A, at lauraflanders.com, and subscribe to get another F word next week. The The Lori Flanders Show is a TV and radio program that seeks to raise radical spirits by interviewing forward-thinking people with real experiences of shifting power from the few to the many in the worlds of economics, arts, and politics. Join us.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Yeah, but I can't see anything. So, who wants Al Franken to resign? Thank you very much. Who wants Al Franken to resign? Because he probably will tomorrow. I think this is his last day. This is his last day as a U.S. Senator, don't you? I do. I think this is it. I think 30 senators. I mean, when your colleagues like that, all gang up and say, okay, we've had it. We're done. Enough is enough. There's too much. And they're trying to clean up the Senate, obviously. They're trying to clean up the House, although Blake Farenthold is still there. I mean, there's so many of these, gropers and predators and super predators and, honey drippers or whatever you want to call those Southern charmers like the Roy. And then you got Bannon out there campaigning for Roy Moore to become a senator. So it seems to me that especially the women in Congress, the staffers, the aides, the chiefs of staff, the women who work in Congress have had it with this, this barrage of gradations of being violated, in various ways, shapes, and forms. And they want to have a zero tolerance policy, meaning no full frontal kissing. Do you know what I mean? No, nothing. Because I think that they understand that Roy Moore is coming their way. And they want clean hands. They want to be able to say, we cleaned up our crap, and you people haven't cleaned up any of your crap, and this is just vile, and this is disgusting. And it's so amazing. And the President of the United States as well. You know that Summer Zervos, who was on The Apprentice and had a business of her own, actually was groped by Donald Trump, and she came out with the other 16 women and gave a statement, went on the TV. Maybe I should start there, play you what she said happened.
He then grabbed my shoulder and began kissing me again very aggressively and placed his hand on my breast. I pulled back and walked to another part of the room. He then walked up, grabbed my hand, and walked me into the bedroom. I walked out. He then turned me around and said, let's lay down and watch some telly.
Ew.
He put me in an embrace, and I tried to push him away. I pushed his chest to put space between us, and I said, come on, man, get real. He repeated my words back to me, get real, as he began thrusting his genitals.
God,
he tried to kiss me again, with my hand still on his chest, and I said, dude, you're tripping right now. Attempting to make it clear, I was not interested.
Oh, that's so vile. Oh, telly. Let's get real. Oh. See, we've been violated by having to picture the Donald mounting anything, really, anything at all, let alone a gorgeous girl like that. It's so. Trump went on the TV and he called every single one of these women liars and said he would sue them. Well, of course, he's never sued them because he doesn't have a case, because he is properly in a lawsuit the defendant, not the plaintiff. The only thing that may have been damaged by all these women saying no to him might be his fragile ego. But nothing else. I mean, his ability to make a living, his reputation, emotionally, he's not suffering from, guilt or damages, of an emotional, nothing. So Gloria Allred went ahead and decided to bring a defamation case against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump had the world's largest microphone when he called these women liars repeatedly at rallies and on television and in interviews and in God knows every place he could, tweeting about them, just an endless barrage of calling them liars. Summer Zervos decided that he was defaming her, and she decided she had enough to bring a case for defamation, that her business had suffered ever since this Apprentice episode that she was, she appeared on The Apprentice. This is when this happened. That everything about her suffered, that she was called a liar publicly. She was damaged emotionally by all of this, by being called out like that in public, and it is devastating. I got to say, I remember when I used to be talked about on the TV. It's so hard to take. I can't tell you that unless you sign up for this, unless you actually sign up for it and you expect it and you know it, it still catches you off guard because you never know what day. And, like waking up one morning and hearing Fox News call for me to be fired was just insane. Insane, I tell you, because I had done stand-up comedy in a comedy club in San Francisco on a Saturday night, and somebody with a cell phone, submitted grainy video so that you could hear me saying the F word, which back then was like, and I was calling politicians in general effing whores because we were on this thing about how Elliot Spitzer had paid $4,000 for a hooker. Remember? And it was all about this stuff. So Elliot Spitzer had paid $4,000 for a hooker. And I said, how gorgeous do you have to be to get $4,000 an hour? I said, do you have to come with your own sunset? Whoa, that was the joke, okay? And then I downshifted into, and Hillary Clinton's an effing whore because, and it was all because back then in 2008, she was saying that the pledged delegates, it's a familiar argument now that the election was, all about delegates, right? That the pledged delegates weren't really pledged for Obama and that she could peel them off. And that just drove me insane. So that was the stand-up I did. So now I wake up one morning and they're talking about me on Fox News and they're saying, she needs to be fired. That foul-mouthed old girl, she needs to be fired. And I was like, what the? It's very shocking. So I can't imagine being a civilian. I really can't. And having those kinds of conversations about your character with no microphone that you could reply to what was being said available to you. That for me would be pure hell. And that's what Summer Zervos went through. So Gloria Allred filed a lawsuit, and she filed it in New York State because that's where Donald Trump lives. Now, Donald Trump had his day in court through his lawyers yesterday. And Gloria Allred was on CNN last night reporting out what took place in the courtroom. I want you to remember that Alan Dershowitz has been making the rounds, saying that Donald Trump cannot, by definition, commit obstruction of justice, which is ridiculous. So you're telling me that the president could destroy all documents, all papers, all files that implicate him in a crime because those files, those documents belong to the executive branch? I mean, this makes no sense. Of course the president could be charged with obstruction. Hence, Bill Clinton was charged with obstruction. Richard Nixon had articles of impeachment drafted against him, charging obstruction. So it makes no sense. And now they've taken the argument even further. And I'll tell you why. They cannot say that Donald Trump didn't do these things. They cannot say that Donald Trump didn't fire James Comey. They can't say that Donald Trump didn't tell Lester Holt that the reason he fired James Comey was over this Russia thing. They can't say that Donald Trump's voice was not, Donald Trump's voice on the Access Hollywood tape was obviously Donald Trump's voice. It was a bus full of people that heard him because it takes a producer and it takes an audio guy and it takes a boom operator and it takes a bus driver and it takes a field producer. And it's like there's probably like 15, 20 people on that bus with Billy Bush and Donald Trump. So everybody heard him. I mean, there's just no way, right? So now they're arguing through his lawyers in court with Gloria Allred that not only can't the president be charged with obstruction of justice, hence he's above the law, but also that he can't be sued in civil court for things he did when he wasn't president of the United States. Now, official acts while he is president of the United States, that's a different set of criteria. But for things he did before he was president of the United States, just like Bill Clinton and Paula Jones. Paula Jones, in 1994, she was a state employee, and she filed a sexual harassment suit against Bill Clinton and a police officer, a former state Arkansas trooper named Danny Ferguson. She claimed that in 1991, when Bill Clinton was not president, he was governor of Arkansas, that he propositioned her to be his mistress. That was Paula Jones' claim. And according to the story, this trooper had accompanied Paula Jones to Clinton's hotel room, and that the trooper stood guard, and the trooper testified that he overheard Jones say that she would not mind being Clinton's mistress. That case was filed in state court in Arkansas. It was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Arkansas. Okay? Just so you can recall, or maybe you weren't alive, or maybe you weren't politically active then. So Gloria Allred was told yesterday in court, this is what they presented to the judge in the New York State Court, that Bill Clinton, that Donald Trump, he's immune from civil lawsuits, and he's way too busy. He's so busy that he can't be sued. He wouldn't have the time for the interrogatories. He wouldn't have time for the deposition. He wouldn't have time for his testimony. He's just so busy. This is amazing.
Her reputation matters. Truth matters. Accountability matters. And so we are pursuing this lawsuit for her because she has, in fact, been harmed. She's been harmed by threats. By a loss of some of her business. Emotionally, she has been harmed. But again, her reputation matters. So we were in court today. The President Trump, through his lawyers, argued that he cannot be sued, that he's president of the United States, that he has immunity. He can't be sued in state court. We, of course, argued Jones versus Clinton. That, in fact, when Paula Jones sued President Clinton, and President Clinton said that he was immune from a lawsuit, the United States Supreme Court said no man is above the law, including the President of the United States, for unofficial acts. And we allege that defamation, which is a tort, we allege that if we can prove that was an act that he committed prior to becoming president, and that he can be sued for that. Of course, we would be entitled to engage in discovery. Deposition would be part of that in any normal lawsuit. But I would like to say that one of the arguments that President Trump's lawyers made today is essentially he's too busy. But we said that we're willing to accommodate the president's schedule. In other words, we understand that he's busy, but in the event, for example, that we needed to take his deposition, we'd be happy to take it at Mar-a-Lago between his rounds of golf. Because we want to accommodate his schedule.
Yeah, between rounds of golf. He's so busy, everybody. He's so busy. And, of course, he thinks he has immunity for acts that he committed prior to being the president of the United States. What world does this man live in? Truly, this is they're suing him for in a defamation lawsuit for the stuff he said before he was president, to damage these women, to damage their reputations, their veracity of their truth, to damage the idea of them in his voters' minds, to make them small, little, insignificant, liars, cheats, doing it for money, putting false motives, assigning false motives to them, ruining their businesses, ruining their reputations. And so, yes, that is a perfect description of damages for a defamation lawsuit. So, yes, it did not happen when he was president. It is not an official act. So, yes, you bring it. And you can bring it in state court, just like, Paula Jones brought it in state court. She brought it in the U.S. District Court in Arkansas. So Gloria Allred brought it in. They call New York Supreme Court. They call it Supreme Court, but really it's a circuit court. I don't know why. New York is always so fancy. So fancy. Because I've been in Supreme Court testifying, and it's really the district court. But okay, so she brings, and their answer to the judge, who's a woman, by the way, is they're too busy to answer questions, and he's immune? You know, when Gloria Allred referred to the Supreme Court ruling in Jones v. Clinton, you know what the count was, the head count? 9-0. 9-0, the Supreme Court said. What, are you kidding me? What do you think? Everything he did before he was president is now, forgivable, or it's not to be looked at, or it has no relevance to, this court? No, when he's president, he has different standards, applied to him. For instance, you can't haul him into a criminal court if it was for, an official act, but you can impeach him. That's the proper venue. So I got to tell you, the more that they make these phony arguments about the president's immune or the president can't commit obstruction or the more I realize they're not making the argument that he's innocent anymore because they can't. So they're making an argument that says you can't hold him accountable. And that's pretty scary because he's not a king, you know. He's not a dictator. He's not an autocrat. He's not a demagogue. He's a president who answers to the Constitution, which clearly was interpreted by the Supreme Court 9-0 to mean that unofficial acts, things he did before he was president, can definitely be heard in a state court. Definitely. Oh, this is going to be some ruling. I can't wait.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
These actions will modify the national monuments designations of both Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante.
Trump rolls back federal protections for 2 national monuments in Utah.
He doesn't even have enough respect to go visit those lands.
Native American tribes and conservation groups file suit to stop him. Republican tax bill slashes renewable energy. Plus, investment firm warns cities address climate risks or you'll be downgraded.
All of those uplifting downgrades straight ahead. From BradBlog.com, I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
I hope you all get coal in your stocking this year. In fact, tonight's show is brought to you by coal. Coal, it's hard oil, I think.
This is your Green News Report.
I'm gonna soak up the sun.
Okay, Desi Doyen, Donald Trump is taking an unprecedented action to roll back presidential declarations by his predecessors?
Yes, President Donald Trump on Monday announced the largest rollback of protected lands in the history of the nation. At an event in Utah, Trump signed a presidential proclamation cutting 2 million acres out of 2 national monuments designated for special protection by President Obama and President Bill Clinton. He shrunk the size of Bears Ears National Monument by 85% and Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument by 45%. In a strong dose of Orwellian doublespeak, Trump claimed that removing protections will protect the land.
Our precious national treasures must be protected, and they, from now on, will be protected.
So in removing the protection for the land to allow things like mining and drilling on it, Donald Trump is telling these people that he is protecting their land.
That's exactly right. His move means that these 2 monuments, which are big tourism draws due to their spectacular beauty and outdoor recreation opportunities, he will now open up those lands to mining, logging, and drilling and leave tens of thousands of Native American ruins, artifacts, and petroglyphs unprotected from looters. Regional Native American tribes had carefully worked for decades to secure federal protection for those areas. Navajo Nation President Russell Begaye called it, quote, a sad day in Indian country and a sad day for Americans, noting that the government had already, quote, taken millions of acres of my people's land. Within hours, Native American tribes and environmental groups filed suit to stop those cuts. On MSNBC, Navajo Nation Attorney General Ethel Branch said the Trump administration did not consult with regional Native American tribes as they claimed.
He doesn't even have enough respect to go visit those lands and visit with the people who live in that community or the sovereign nations that call those lands their homelands. They think that talking to one Native American person, one Navajo person, constitutes consultation with the Navajo Nation, and he's gravely mistaken.
The legal battle to come could very well alter the course of American land conservation and open up other cherished protected lands for development.
I wonder how the Republicans' stolen U.S. Supreme Court will ultimately decide.
The massive Republican tax cut bill that was rushed to passage in the U.S. Senate late night on Friday must still be reconciled with the House version, but But both versions take aim at the renewable energy industry and consumers by rolling back industry tax credits for large-scale utility, wind, and solar projects, and harming consumers by killing the $7,500 federal electric vehicle tax credit that helps average Americans purchase non-polluting electric cars. But Republicans kept the fossil fuel industry's billions in annual permanent tax breaks. Those are fine.
And those are permanent, as Republicans continue to pick winners and losers by picking oil and coal and dirty energy over clean energy.
Meanwhile, Bloomberg News reports that China has announced it is extending its electric vehicle tax rebate for consumers. Finally, global investment giant Moody's has a stark warning for U.S. cities. Address your climate risks or we will downgrade your bonds. Moody's Investor Service says it will now factor the cost of climate change impacts into its credit ratings for state and local bonds because governments that don't actively prepare for rising sea levels and more frequent extreme weather disasters are at much greater risk of default. Moody's managing director Lenny Jones said, quote, "If you're exposed, we know that. We're going to ask questions about what you're going to do to mitigate that exposure, and that's taken into your credit ratings." But the Trump administration just made that more difficult on Monday, disbanding a multi-agency panel created by President Obama that was supposed to help cities prepare critical systems and infrastructure for resilience against the impacts of climate change.
Incredible that we have to rely on corporate credit bureaus to try to push states and cities to do the right thing, since our president will only do the opposite. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
So give some credit where it's due. Give props so you know who you know. Give credit where it's due.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey! It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
This is Steve Bannon campaigning for pedophile Roy Moore last night.
Now, I want you to understand something. It was Willard Mitt Romney's comment yesterday, his tweet or whatever it was, that, and the only reason I'm going there, Mitt, because you started it. Mitt, you had to go there. All the insults you made about the President of the United States, put all that in back of us. You know, he interviewed you for Secretary of State, everything's fine, but no, Judge Moore's got to run, you got to jump in here. Honor, what did he say yesterday? Honor and integrity? Honor, that Judge Moore lacked honor and integrity. And that's why he couldn't vote for him, right? Couldn't support him. Couldn't support him. Judge Moore is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point.
Let me stop it right there. So let's just review what he just said. So if you graduated from West Point, he's going to go on to say served in Vietnam. If you graduated from West Point or you served in Vietnam, you're immune from being from having your grisly, grotesque past as a mole rat, a troll, a guy who puts blankets on his floor in order to seduce a 14-year-old or take 16-year-olds to the back of a restaurant, park in front of a dumpster, and push her head into your lap. As long as you served in West Point or as long as you served in the military, that's okay. You can do that in Steve Bannon's world, and he's going to lecture us about honor and integrity, character and principles, and what that means. And they'll applaud in Alabama.
Judge Moore served his country in one of the toughest wars we've ever had, Vietnam. And he went over there for his country, his state, and his family. Mitt, that's honor and integrity. And by the way, Mitt, while we're on the subject of Vietnam and honor and integrity.
Oh, you don't want to go
You
there?
avoided service, brother. Right? You served. Okay, Mitt, here's how it is, brother. Now the college deferments, that's we can debate that, but you hid behind your religion.
Oh.
You went to France to be a missionary while guys were dying in rice paddies in Vietnam.
Oh, I guess Mormonism is not one of Steve Bannon's approved religions. See, this is where the cake case becomes very interesting, okay? If it's not an approved religion approved by Steve Bannon, Mormonism, Judaism, God, because, he wouldn't send it. He didn't want to send his daughter to a school with all those Jews. He didn't want his daughter to be mixing with the Jews. I mean, this is just frightening. But apparently, if you served in the military or you did a tour in Vietnam, even though if you read about Roy Moore's tour in Vietnam, Roy Moore, I think he was part of a police brigade, and Roy Moore's men hated him so much, that Roy Moore had to sleep on sandbags lest his own men roll grenades under his bed and fragged him. Look up fragging. Oh my God. Anyway, as long as he served in a war. Now, what's really, really rich is Bannon talking about deferments. How many did Trump get? Talking about not serving in military operations, talking about not showing up in a time. How many of Trump's kids? Junior, who's testifying right now in front of the House Intelligence Committee behind closed doors. Yeah, that's his kids. His kids have to produce documents and testimony about colluding with the Russians in an election cycle. Did they serve in Afghanistan? Did they serve in Iraq? I don't think so. Ivanka, anybody ever seen Ivanka? No. Eric? The only thing they've ever killed are rare, endangered species. And then their dad tried to allow them to take the heads home. Except for the outcry around the world. I mean, it's just so... That is so... And see, this is the difference. Republicans will say anything. They will cover up everything. They will say, grant privileges to themselves that aren't available to others, including past presidents, like immunity from civil lawsuits or can't obstruct justice because the Justice Department is part of the executive branch, even though it is designed to be apolitical, not apolitical, apolitical, meaning it's not political. And Alan Dershowitz, he's wigging me out. I'm not sure why he's doing this, but I will say, when he's on Fox News, he says something, and then he walks it back on the other news networks. It's really pretty fascinating, because here, look, in this clip, Alan Dershowitz is going to tell you that the president is supposed to direct investigations that the FBI is doing. Alan, I'm going to call OJ and ask him what kind of lawyer you really were.
Do you see a case for obstruction building?
No, I don't. And I think if Congress ever were to charge him with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional authority under Article 2, we'd have a constitutional crisis. You cannot charge a president with obstruction of justice for exercising his constitutional power to fire Comey and his constitutional authority to tell the Justice Department who to investigate, who not to investigate. That's what Thomas Jefferson did. That's what Lincoln did. That's what Roosevelt did. We have precedents that clearly establish that. When George Bush, the first, pardoned Caspar Weinberger in order to end the investigation that would have led to him, nobody suggested obstruction of justice.
I did.
For obstruction of justice by the president, you need clearly illegal acts. With Nixon, hush money paid, telling people to lie, destroying evidence. Even with Clinton, they said that he tried to influence potential witnesses not to tell the truth. But there's never been a case in history where a president has been charged with obstruction of justice for merely exercising his constitutional authority. That would cause a constitutional crisis in the United States, and I hope Mueller doesn't do that, and Senator Feinstein simply doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, please, Alan, please. Please see Bill Clinton. Call him up. I'm sure you got him on speed dial. Honest to God, what is wrong with people? What Dianne Feinstein doesn't do? She's the one that's seeing all the evidence. She's the one that's, getting the intelligence briefing. She knows what the Russians did, and she knows whether or not the Russians offered something in exchange for cooperation. Did they offer dirt on Hillary Clinton in exchange for releasing the sanctions before the president was president? That's what this investigation is about. It's about interference by Russia and who knew about it. Who knew about it? And you got videotapes of the president standing up at podiums saying, Russia, if you're listening, find the emails. Find the emails of Hillary Clinton. I mean, it's just so sick. You have Trump writing a letter in response to Junior's meeting with Russians at Trump Tower on Air Force One. Please excuse Junior. He did not know they were, a communist. You got them all talking to WikiLeaks. You got them on Messenger talking to WikiLeaks. You got Jared talking to WikiLeaks. You got Junior talking to WikiLeaks. Roger Stone talking to WikiLeaks. Roger Stone telling everybody, who reads his Twitter feed, which has been taken down. He's got another one, but saying, John Podesta is next in the barrel, because he's Sybil the soothsayer. No, it's because he's talking to WikiLeaks, and these were coordinated document dumps of stolen material that the Russians stole on behalf of Donald Trump's candidacy. Hence the note, the Russian government wants to help Donald Trump. We have dirt on Hillary Clinton we'd like to give you, and in exchange, you're going to take the sanctions off. And we know this because Flynn is being recorded talking to the freaking ambassador who is routinely wiretapped, Kislyak, who doesn't even live in this country anymore because he knows he can't live here anymore. You got the president of the United States meeting with Sergei Lavrov and Ambassador Kislyak the day after he fires Comey, where you have somebody transcribing all these conversations in the Oval Office. You have an official, when I say note taker, everybody goes, "What's a note taker?" It's a court reporter. Okay, smarten up. And everything is written down. All official business is documented, and the transcripts from that clearly show that he told Lavrov and Kislyak that Comey was a nut job, and that now Russia, the cloud of Russia, has been lifted. He doesn't have that to worry about anymore, and they're laughing their asses off. I mean, what are you talking about? No crime was committed, Alan. What are you talking about?
Of course, the president can be charged with obstruction of justice if he engages in acts beyond what Article 2 of the Constitution allows him to do.
Now, that's so interesting. On Fox, he's well, I won't say definitively because it's hard to say, but I also won't say definitively because he didn't definitively. He's parsing on Fox. He's giving red meat to the viewers, saying the president cannot, as long as it's within his Article 2 official business, whatever. I got news for you. A crime has been committed, and you can't do anything as anybody, even the president of the United States, that's criminal without being charged. And so he goes on CNN, confronted with a lawyer, Jeffrey Toobin, and he says, hey, don't misunderstand me and what I'm telegraphing to the Fox viewers to confuse them, because now I'm on CNN, and I just want to be very clear. Because my reputation is at stake. Nobody expects the truth from Fox, but they do here. And so let me be clear. If the president's covering up a crime, well, sure.
Of course, the president can be charged with obstruction of justice if he engages in acts beyond what Article 2 of the Constitution allows him to do. President Nixon and Clinton were both impeached for obstructing justice by telling witnesses to lie.
Right.
Nixon for paying hush money and destroying evidence. My point is that the president cannot be charged for simply exercising his authority under the Constitution by pardoning people, by firing people he's allowed to fire, without regard to what his subjective intent may be. It's much like Article 1, which says that senators and congressmen have limited immunity from arrest for performing their duties under Article 1 of the Constitution.
Oh, please. I mean, this is a very, very sick interpretation, and it also involves the imaginary idea that the president isn't covering stuff up, that the president isn't asking people to lie for him, a la Michael Flynn, that the president, the idea that intent doesn't matter in a crime is very bizarre. I've never heard that said before. He is definitely reaching and groping. Of course, especially in obstruction, the intent matters. Is the intent when you obstruct, when you fire Sally Yates, when you fire Preet Bharara, when you fire James Comey, who are all investigating aspects of your life, either financial wrongdoings, banking fraud, or, when you attack the judiciary and you say that they can't sit and judge. Okay, all this stuff. And then you actually follow through with the threat to fire, and you do fire because they won't pledge loyalty to your scheme, your criminal scheme to cover up. Come on, Alan Dershowitz knows this. That's what's so creepy about it. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. Maybe it has something to do with the embassy moving to Jerusalem. I don't know. I can't get inside his head. But I will tell you that if you're trying to stop a prosecution, which is what he's doing, into you and your criminal behavior having to do with an election, a presidential one, no.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Hi, this is Scotty, Randy's producer, here to remind you it's December, a month that's known for its holidays. You got your Christmas, your Hanukkah, your Kwanzaa, your Boxing Day, Festivus. No matter what holiday you celebrate, it's a time we all come together with our families and friends. And since you're all my family and friends, I like to wish each and every one of you a happy/merry holidays of your choice. Now, if you're still looking for the perfect gift, I, Scotty, got you covered. Go to RandiRhodes.com and buy your friends or family a stinking podcast. Think about it. What better way to show your loved ones that you really care than sharing with them the knowledge of truth and facts? And if you can't stand the people in your life, but you still want to do something great for the holidays, here's an idea for you. Support the show. By supporting the Randi Rhodes Show, you help keep us going into the new year. And if 2017 was a sign of things to come, we'll need Randi more than ever. Go to RandiRhodes.com to buy a stinking podcast and or support the show.
Hello, Progressive Voices Tune-In listeners. I'm Casey Hobbs.
And I'm Shane Mason, and we're the hosts of Nurse Talk Radio.
Here's what we're talking about this week.
California last year became the 5th state to allow people with terminal illnesses to request pills from their doctors to end their lives.
Compassionate Choices is the nation's oldest, largest, most active nonprofit that works to improve care and expand choice at the end of life. We really believe that people should be, the determiners of their own destiny. They should be in the driver's seat, and they should have all options necessary to make sure that that's the case.
Why do you think there's so much angst about the End of Life Option Act?
Well, I think there's angst about the end of life in general, right? This is a topic that for many of us brings about a lot of stigma or a lot of discomfort because it's not something that we talk about widely in the public sphere, and one that, frankly, our organization and I personally believe should be out there in the open. And this option being debated in a public sphere really puts that forward.
I work in hospice, and it's difficult because so many of our patients come to us or referred to us within the last week of life, which doesn't really allow us to do much work with the patients and their families as far as accepting and moving through this process. So I wish that we had that conversation more frequently.
That's the big goal, really, right, is that we're upstreaming these conversations as much as possible. And the amazing thing that I think the End of Life Option Act does, not only does it give those patients who need it this option that they need at the end of life, but it's not sterile, it's not morbid, but it's really about teaching your family and your care team and those that are around you how to love you in your last days.
Check out our show at nursetalksite.com and listen every Saturday and Sunday right here on Progressive Voices.
The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Alan thinks, and Alan will correct me if I'm wrong, that there is no way that firing James Comey can be obstruction of justice because he has the legal right as president to fire James Comey. I think that is completely wrong.
That's wrong.
Because I think the subjective intent can be considered by Congress in impeachment.
I do too. I think intent is such a big part of a charge of obstruction. Okay? Because yes, you can fire somebody, but are you firing them because they did a criminal thing? Are you firing them because they weren't a good lawyer? Are you firing them because somebody else wants that job? Or are you firing them to stop a prosecution? The intent matters. And we know what the intent is because he told us.
But regardless of recommendation, I was going to fire Comey, knowing there was no good time to do it. And in fact, when I decided to just do it, I said to myself, I said, you know, this Russia thing with Trump and Russia is a made-up story. It's an excuse.
He told you why he fired Comey. He didn't want to have the Russia thing be prosecuted or looked at or evidence gathered. He didn't want it. This is, of course, his intent matters. And that's why it's so curious that Alan Dershowitz is defending him in this manner and confusing the American people about covering up crimes, being part of the obstruction, and asking, and putting out false information to newspapers to cover up for his son, who met with Russians, and the many, many lies that were told under oath that nobody recalls meeting with Russians. And then we find out Jeff Sessions met with Russians in his Senate office. That nobody recalls why James Comey was, I mean, this is ridiculous. You got Junior lying. You have Jared lying on security clearance forms, on financial disclosure forms. You have Trump lying for his son. You have Trump lying to the American people. You have Trump taking a proactive, firing a prosecutor who is looking into Trump's crimes, and he fires him to end the investigation. That is classic obstruction of justice. Dianne Feinstein does know what she's talking about. I don't know why Alan Dershowitz has become this Trump defender. It's very sick and twisted. Oh no, I have to tell you this. There's another woman who's just come forward to accuse Al Franken of sexual harassment. And it's somebody that, I read regularly. It's Tina Dupuis over at The Atlantic. She just wrote a piece that just came down, and it says, in mid-November, a Los Angeles radio host named Leanne Tweeden stepped forward to claim that Senator Al Franken had shoved his tongue down her throat under the pretext of a rehearsal for a sketch he'd written. The coup de grace was a photograph of a sleeping Tweeden and the now senator pretending to grab her boobs for the camera over Kevlar. Just saying. There was an instant cognitive dissonance with Democrats on Twitter. People like Franken. Democrats need Franken. Oh, people like Franken. Democrats need Franken. I get it. See, the accuser had been on Sean Hannity's show. She must therefore be a right-winger. Well, she was a right-winger. She could have been put up to this, they speculated. Roger Stone had tweeted that the touchy Franken was about to be exposed 6 hours before the story dropped. Franken was about to be exposed 6 hours before. That's fishy, they surmised. They all sounded paranoid, irrational, and conspiratorial, but that's how we all sound these days. I assume Franken would step down later that day. Tweeden's story rang true to me. I told myself I was the only one. I'd been groped by Franken in 2009. It happened at a Media Matters party during the first Obama inauguration. It was a great time to be a Democrat. Not only had we just elected the first African-American president of the United States, but Franken's race had triggered a recount, leaving lefties giddy that we would soon have a supermajority in the Senate. This was my first inauguration. I'd never been in the proverbial room where it happens. My experience with government at that point was being awarded the court in foster care. Oh, that's sad. Noting that I had an interest in politics and in grandstanding. At 14, I ran a scorched earth campaign to make the entire group home I lived in recycle. My foster dad set up an internship for me at the district office of Representative George Miller. The summer before my senior year of high school, as an intern, I answered calls, thumbed through the congressional record, and misalphabetized his constituent files. It was a great experience, and at the time, the closest I'd been to power. D.C. was decked out and packed in for the inauguration of a young, popular new president. The town was buzzing with optimism, and one of the many events on our list was a swanky media matters party with Democratic notables everywhere. Then I saw Al Franken. I only bug celebrities for pictures when it'll make my foster mom happy. She loves Franken. So I asked to get a picture with him. We posed for the shot. He immediately put his hand on my waist, grabbing a handful of flesh. I froze, then he squeezed at least twice. I'd been married for 2 years at the time. I don't let my husband touch me like that in public because I believe it diminishes me as a professional woman. Al Franken's familiarity was inappropriate and unwanted. It was also quick. He knew exactly what he was doing. It shrunk me. It's like I was no longer a person, only ornamental. It said, you don't matter, and I do. He wanted to cop a feel, and he demonstrated that he didn't need my permission. Oh, we're going to go too far with this, aren't we? We're going to lose this argument. And it's a really good one. Because there are predators. There are super predators. There are grotesque men out there. I mean, scary freaking men that use their power to intimidate women into staying silent. Grabbed your waist for a photo. You know what pisses me off about this story? I was not invited to that party. See, Al, you treated me like crap. And if I would have been at that party, you would have been grabbing me by the waist, and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But instead, you're grabbing strangers. I'm used to you. I understand, you know, you're full frontal. I get it. I never got the skeevy feeling. I never got the diminishment. I never got the, he's trying to intimidate or lord his power over me thing. I just got that he was a really big dork. He was Stuart Smiley at heart, and he just wanted to be liked. And so he was overly affectionate with the greeting, which you should really stop doing, because apparently it pisses off women. I was not invited to that party, Al, and here I am defending you. Great. Larry in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, it's Lake Elsinore.
Oh, Lake Elsinore. Oh, Larry in Lake Elsinore. Oh, hi, Larry.
How are you doing, Randy?
How's your pancreas?
My pancreas is okay, but boy, I tell you, my daughter, you know, she had a procedure done with a reservoir implanted, and then she wound up getting spinal meningitis. Oh, that's not half of it. About a month later, she had a stroke.
Oh.
Now she's back at UCR college, so we'll knock on wood for that. So, anyway, my head's about to explode.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, I am so goddamn pissed off. The Democrats go and they eat their own, and they don't do a damn thing or say a damn thing about what the Republicans like Vitter and everybody else down the line have done in the past, because everything they're bringing up about Democrats, a lot of it's from the past, but they remain silent, but they go after their own. And this is why they lose elections.
Well, you know, I will tell you, Conyers, this is an ongoing problem, and it was something everybody knew. I knew it, okay? And I'm here to tell you the truth, right? So I'm telling you, I knew John Conyers had problems, big ones, huge ones, and I'm just saying, when he retired yesterday, I shed no tears. I just don't see where grabbing someone around the waist to take a photo is sexual harassment now. And what scares me is not just that today is probably Al Franken's last day as a senator. What scares me is that women have a moment. We're having an amazing conversation in this country about what real intimidation, sexually predatory behavior can do to a woman's career, can do to a woman's, self-esteem, can do to a woman's position in her own mind. How, touching a child at 14 is a death sentence for the soul of that child. And unless that child can rise like Lazarus from the ashes, or rise like a phoenix, for those of you who are, not really, then their life is dead. That's murder. It's murder of the soul. And we're talking about it in the same breath as taking a photo and grabbing someone around the waist.
Randy, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not shedding a tear either for Conyers, but it's all the other ones they want to dredge up. They don't. No, there's no definition. They're not able to define it. It's like you said. God forbid someone should say an off-color joke to someone about a woman, and that's going to constitute some kind of abuse to women. This is ridiculous, damn it. Yeah, when are people going to get their heads on straight?
Yeah, this country's
going to hell in a handbasket, and Dershowitz is a schmuck. And the only reason why he's standing up for Trump is because he loves Israel so much, he'll stand up for anybody that'll stand up for Israel. And the only reason why Trump is doing that is so he can gain favor with the evangelicals, so all the Jews can return back to Israel, and they can have their revelations realized.
Yeah, I think it's about Armageddon for them too. The love of Israel. It always freaked me out. But
they don't love us.
I know they don't love us. I mean, Steve Bannon won't let his daughter go to school with us. So, yeah, it is a little annoying. But honestly, this is really sick. You have the president endorsing Roy Moore, like full-throated endorsement. Steve Bannon campaigning for him last night. You have Republicans who are ashamed to be Republicans writing checks to Doug Jones. And we're today spending the time gathering 30 senators to remove Al Franken for excessive lip when he greets you.
And the Democratic ones, too, at that.
Yeah.
And you know what? The Republicans are sitting by watching and laughing their ass off because they don't have to say a word.
It's very weird. And I'm afraid for women. I am afraid for women in this way. This is, Time Magazine picked its Person of the Year, and we were told, today, Time, of course, revealed their cover. And the women, the Person of the Year are the women who broke the silence. It's the women who came forth to say about Harvey Weinstein, okay? And the women who came forward, with sexual harassment claims against the Bill O'Reillys of the world and the what's his face, Roger Ailes of the world, and others, and the Donald Trumps of the world. And meanwhile, really, Donald Trump's got Alan Dershowitz on the TV saying he's immune from all anything. It just blows my mind. And the Democrats are trying to get rid of a guy because he took a photo with a girl at a party I was not invited to, even though I was his colleague, a really glitzy one with Media Matters, no less. And he put his hand on her waist. Really?
I don't know what's happening in this country.
It's scary.
My girlfriend's talking about she should move to Germany. She's from here. Her son lives in Germany. And you know what? I wouldn't blame her because this country is turning to be despicable.
Listen.
The people disgust me.
Yeah, there's a good chunk of them that disgust me, too. Today, Junior refused to talk about the communications he had with his father. I mean, as if he could testify but not take the fifth. I mean, these people are walking all over us.
I know. And they're not going to stop until we do have a dictatorship, and it's all run by some Republican elitists. Not, they're destructive. They are not patriotic, and people better get that. Yeah. Patriotism is not measured by your mouth. It's measured by your actions.
Check this out. You got all these preppers that love Donald Trump. What are they prepping for? To go to war against what? The government.
Right.
And they're more patriotic than me? Really?
And we're on the verge of World War III right now.
Well, it's not good. I mean, there's going to be a lot of unrest. There's, could be nothing, could be something. I don't know, but we just have to wait. I mean, but I will tell you that you've got people that are stockpiling weapons to go to war against their own government, claiming they're more patriotic than me.
Yeah, that's a joke.
It's unbelievable. And we're screwing this moment up because we have all the facts on our side. We have all the wrongdoing on their side. We have pedophiles on their side. We have collusion and cooperation and quid pro quos with Russian intelligence officers. I mean, Manafort couldn't even make it to his bail hearing without talking to Russian intelligence, and Donald Trump is deploying Russia's foreign policy. You know, Russia is all about, Israel being, declaring the capital of Jerusalem so that we will have another Middle East war and we'll be bogged down. This is why he fights on the side of Syria against us. And we have a president who is deploying Russian foreign policy. I mean, this is crazy. This is madness. Jim in Rhode Island.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
Good. How are you? How's Rhode Island? What's it like?
It's not bad. It was really nice today. Mid-60s.
Can I afford to live there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's not that bad.
So where do I want to look? Give me a neighborhood or something, or a town.
I don't know. Cranston, Johnston.
Cranston and Johnston. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm writing
Anyway,
it down. I got to get out of Florida. Sorry. Got to get out.
Yeah, I don't blame you there.
Yeah.
I don't blame you there. Okay, it looks like Al Franken quite possibly is going to resign.
I think so. I mean, Amy Klobuchar just tweeted, and she said, sexual harassment is unacceptable. This morning, I spoke with Senator Franken, and as you know, he will be making an announcement about his future tomorrow morning. I am confident he will make the right decision. That does not sound good.
Okay. Well, Minnesota has a Democratic governor, correct?
Correct.
And a Democratic governor most likely will have another Democrat.
Yes.
In Al Franken.
I would say so, yes.
What would prevent Mitch McConnell from blocking that? He blocked the Supreme Court nomination.
Oh, no.
Yeah?
No. He couldn't.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure he can't come up with any cockamamie?
He'll seat him.
I'm sorry?
He will seat him.
He will seat him.
Yeah.
Wasn't there talk that he would not seat Roy Moore if he won?
Well, that's a different story now, isn't it? Roy Moore is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But remember yesterday, Mitch McConnell, said, whatever.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show, and all I want for Christmas is an impeachment. But the next best thing is working at the Randi Rhodes Show, and that can't happen without your support. Let's help Randi make this a hard truth holiday season, and she can't do that without your support. So please keep listening and buy a stinking podcast.
Happy holidays, jerky fans. Herky Jerky knows it's the season to enjoy the world's best jerky and meat sticks, and they want you to save a bundle while doing it. Herky Jerky, first of all, would like to thank you all you fiercely loyal customers, because they had their most successful year thanks to you despite Mother Nature doing its worst. Jason at Herky Jerky is so grateful that you enjoy his products, and everyone at Herky Jerky is so glad to provide them. So, as a special thank you, Herky Jerky is serving up their best offer of the year for Christmas giving. $10 off any order of $60 or more, or $15 off any order $100 or more without a promo code. Just visit herkyjerky.com. And the now famous bacon jerky, new fat-free and delicious turkey jerky, and all four the new nitrite and preservative-free flavors, plus good old beef jerky, and all the exotic game jerkies make perfect holiday gifts. Buffalo, elk, venison sticks, 3 different varieties of beef smokies, all make great stocking stuffers. So choose your favorites now. Take advantage of the savings, which also includes free shipping on any 2 packs or more. Everyone at Herky Jerky would like to wish a safe and happy holiday season to all of you, and thank you once again for your loyalty. This offer starts today and it goes through all of December. Happy holidays from herkyjerky.com.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
This is Ezra Levin, Executive Director of Indivisible. Please go to indivisibleguide.com, type in your zip code, find your local Indivisible group, and join the movement to resist Trump's agenda. We've teamed up with Progressive Voices Network to help your community take action and hold Congress accountable.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. President Barack Obama. We wrote this guide because we believe that the coming years will see an unprecedented movement of Americans rising up across the country to protect our values, our neighbors, and ourselves. Our goal is to provide a practical understanding of how your members of Congress think and how you can demonstrate to them the depth and power of the opposition to Donald Trump and the Republican congressional overreach. This is not a panacea, nor is it intended to stand alone. We strongly urge you to marry the strategy in this guide with a broader commitment to creating a more just society, building local power, and addressing systemic injustice and racism.
Take action and hold Congress accountable. This is Ezra Levin on the Progressive Voices Network, asking you to join the millions who decided to become part of the movement to resist Trump's agenda. Check out indivisibleguide.com to start resisting on your home turf. Keep listening for more ways you can get involved.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Here's that slime bag, Steve Bannon campaigning for the pedophile Roy Moore last night.
Let's talk about Jeff Flake. Did he sign a check today, $100 to Jones? Right? What do you say? Put country ahead of party?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, brother. If you're going to write a check, write a check.
What's with the brother thing?
Don't give the man $100. Are you kidding me?
Is he doing shtick?
Hey, Flake, this is why your approval rating in your home state is like 11%. No. Man, you're a total embarrassment. If you're going to write a check, write a check. Support somebody. Flake has hated Donald Trump from day one.
Well, yeah, most of us have. Anybody who's sane has. Because the man was caught on tape saying he grabs women by the genitalia. He is a aggressive kisser. He can't stop. He doesn't even wait. And Al Franken is going to lose his job. I'll tell you, Minnesota Public Radio tweeted out that they had information that Al was going to resign tomorrow. But the Al Franken Twitter account tweeted back at them and said, get your information right. The decision hasn't been made. But let me tell you something. The CNN is reporting now that Senator Chuck Schumer, who's the ranking, the minority, the chairman of the Democrats in the, well, he's not chairman. He's the ranking Democrat in the Senate, has repeatedly called Al today to tell Al, you must go. To tell Al you must go. I mean, is this person? I just, I'm not friends with him. You know that, right? I worked with him for many, many years. Not friends for different reasons. But Chuck Schumer is asking him. Bernie Sanders told him he has to go today. I think this has something to do with, setting up for Roy Moore. I don't know, but the idea, that a girl is grabbed by the waist or kissed on the cheek at parties I was not invited to, which is why I don't like him. It's just part of why I don't like him, and I don't. But this is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable to me. I mean, we're going to blow this Me Too thing. We're going to blow this moment and give ammunition to Republicans to the point where we're going to be in burqas. Women, don't be stupid about this. We are smart enough to know the difference between aggressive, unwanted, sexual harassment, unwanted assault. Well, assault is always unwanted, and rape and pedophilia. We are all equipped well enough to know the difference between all of those things. Kissing someone on the cheek uninvited, all right, annoying. Not actionable. Taking a photo with somebody. You know, Al's not very tall. He should try this experiment. Okay? No, seriously. If you're a smaller person and go to take a picture with somebody taller than you, and almost everybody is taller than Al, your hand is going to end up on their waist. This is ridiculous. I don't get it. Unless they don't like Al either. And trust me, there's plenty of reasons not to like him. This is just bizarre. But I'm telling you, for the bigger issue, like I said, Time Magazine came out with their Person of the Year, and it's the women who broke the silence. It's the women behind the hashtag Me Too movement, which is important and valuable and necessary and long overdue in this freaking country. Long overdue. Okay? But if we're not careful, the solution to it is going to be, well, if you don't want us to grab you by the waist, then we're going to have to create a law that says that women cannot leave their house unaccompanied, or they have to be in modest dress, or they have to be covered up from head to... I mean, be careful, because these people are religious zealots. All of them. All of them are religious zealots. The argument that they're making over this masterpiece cake case, cake is not a religious symbol, never was. Even Marie Antoinette let the people eat the cake. This is a ridiculous case, ridiculous. Let me play you the debate that's going on the cake real quick. We can talk about it more tomorrow because I plan to do it today. It's important.
Like any couple getting married, we had a million details to finalize. On this particular day, it was special to us. We had a binder full of ideas.
They said that they were here to look for wedding cakes.
As soon as we sat down with the owner, he asked who the cake was for.
They were sitting at our wedding desk. They had my wedding book open with wedding pictures in front of them.
We told him it was for us.
Right away, I knew that it's not a cake that I would be able to create for them. Told them,
if you have a book of cakes that you create for the public, then you have a menu. And if you have a menu, then you must serve the public what's on your menu. A cake doesn't have religion. A cake is a cake. An apple is an apple. This man is radical. He's radical in his religious beliefs. And you know what? As long as he doesn't bother anybody else, who cares? But he's bothering people.
sorry guys, I don't do cakes for same-sex weddings. They looked at me like, what do you mean?
We were horrified and just embarrassed and hurt.
I'll make you birthday cake, shower cakes, cookies, brownies. Basically, I'll sell you anything else in the store. But that's just a cake that I can't do. And the conversation didn't go any farther. They got mad, stood up, stormed out of the shop.
In the parking lot, we were very emotional. It's embarrassing to admit, but I cried.
I didn't want to use my artistic talents to create something that went against my Christian faith.
We haven't spoken to Jack since this all began. This case is about more than us, and it's not about cakes. It's about the right of gay people to receive equal service.
Yes, it is.
I don't see this as a case of discrimination. I see discrimination as saying, you people are not welcome in my shop. But I always, always, always welcome everybody in my shop. There are just events that I don't create cakes for. This was one of them. But the two gentlemen that came in are welcome in my shop any day. To turn away somebody because of their sexual orientation, that would be discrimination. To turn away an event, the opportunity to create a cake for an event, is not discrimination.
This isn't about artistic expression. I don't feel like we asked for a piece of art or for him to make a statement. We simply asked him for a cake, and he denied that to us simply because of who we are.
I feel that I'm being compelled to create artwork for an event, an inherently religious event that goes against my faith.
Whoa, wait a minute. He thinks a wedding is an inherently religious event. Well, then all you atheists out there don't have the right to marry either. Oh my God, do you realize how much was said there that is discriminatory? That if you don't practice Christianity in the same way he does, which apparently skipped the whole judge not lest ye be judged part, and goes right into, a man and a woman or whatever he thinks it says about that. And he has now assigned a religious ceremony to a wedding, which could be officiated by a justice of the peace. I got married in the little white chapel in Las Vegas by an Elvis impersonator. My wedding cost $75. Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't religious. So this man is assigning all these qualities to this cake that a cake can't have. Because a cake is a cake. And if you have a book of cakes you routinely bake for the public, you have to bake a cake for a wedding that isn't particularly religious, or is a Jewish wedding, or is a Muslim wedding, or is an Indian wedding, or is a Buddhist wedding, or a Shinto wedding, or whatever it is, without passing judgment on the nature of the wedding. You weren't asked to officiate. You weren't asked to perform a religious service. You were asked to bake. I mean, I can't believe he said he'd bake cookies, but he wouldn't bake cake. What is the deal with a cake? It's a cake. This is becoming a very twisted country. And with this kind of, I don't know, zealotry, this kind of narrow reading of only my brand of Christianity counts, and I can, do whatever I want, even if I'm open to the entire public. I can make people cry in my parking lot, making them think they're going to hell because they are violating my religious beliefs. I can send them packing because a cake is somehow a religious object. This is very sick and twisted. And I'm telling you now that if you can't touch a woman on the waist to take a photo or kiss her on the cheek when you first meet her, we're going to be in burqas. These religious zealots are going to make the case that nobody knows where the line is, and women are, we can't run elections like this, and everybody's past is now an open sore and a oozy pussy gravy sore that they're going to pick apart, and we can't, nobody can do anything, in the public realm anymore. And so the religious zealots are going to say, well, then cover the women. Cover the women. This is scary. And I don't want to defend him. Ron in Buffalo.
Yeah, okay. Originally, I was going to talk about this Dershowitz stuff. I know we've been talking about the sexual abuse stuff lately, but should I still say that or talk about that?
Yeah, whatever you want. And I'm glad that you wrote me so I could write you back.
Okay. This sexual abuse stuff, because you've been talking about it for like 20 minutes now. I've never had the desire to run up to a stranger and give them a hug or a kiss. I don't know. Am I different? I mean, some of these guys, politicians, Hollywood people, whatever, they seem to have the idea that their prominence gives them certain rights. And if they're mostly men, I guess it probably could be the same with some strong women. But
well, I think it's a personality thing. Some people are huggers, right? And some people aren't. Mm-hmm.
But I just never felt the desire to approach a stranger.
You're not. So you're not a hugger, You're not. But if a friend of mine introduces me to somebody, like a husband and wife, or even a husband, or what, I usually go in for the kiss or the hug. I do. I go in.
Okay, so then it becomes very interpretive if you don't know the person, and that's where you're making a point here. It's where do you draw the line? I would say.
See, this is why muddying the waters is not a good idea. A casual greeting with no maliciousness behind it, no aggressive, not an aggressive sexual, overture, not a seduction, not a, we're smart enough to know the difference between a greeting and an overture, or a greeting and a power play, or a greeting and an assault, or a greeting and a malicious intent, or a greeting versus making someone feel small or objectified. I mean, listen, women know. Maybe you don't, but we do.
Yeah, just curious, because some of these women that with Frank and are saying that he, tongue kissed them and stuff of that nature.
He listen, I'll tell you something. He does have this really, and I said this from day one. And when I was asked by reporters, you know, whether or not this was the reason I don't get along with Al, I said absolutely not. I said yes, he's a full frontal kisser. He's got thick lips and he's got wet lips, and it's just like fishy. And you know, when Leanne Tweeden described it as you know, fish lips, I said, oh, that's funny, because I thought the same thing. That's what you would think, fish lips. Okay? And he's really got to stop doing it, because apparently there are a lot of women who don't like it, and that's...
Well, I wouldn't like it if a woman did it to me if I didn't know her.
Yeah, and I can, I mean, because I've experienced it, I'm telling you, a lot of people, like, it is freaky. When he first did that with me, I was like, really? But I didn't find it malicious, and I didn't find it a power play, and he was famous, and I was like the radio person when we all started working together. Everyone there was famous. Remember, everyone there was famous except for me, and I didn't feel that was to put me in my place or not inviting me to the parties, like the launch party for Air America I wasn't invited to. You know, like that was to put me in my place. That was to say, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, and doggone it, we don't like you, we're famous. So, you know, it's not about the grabbing by the way, it's about the way you treat people. And you knew when you were being ostracized or made to feel small, and it had nothing to do with the fish lips thing, which he does have. But I just don't see that as being Roy Moore territory. I don't see that as John Conyers territory. I don't see that as Blake Farenthold territory. I see this as a door opening to destroy, by accident, this Me Too hashtag movement that is so important to women in the workplace, especially in the workplace. I was really loving it. I mean, I was just so hopeful for my daughters. You know, Howard's daughter, my daughter. I was just so hopeful, and I'm scared now. BuyAStinkingPod.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a Stinking Podcast.